Hey, nice Atypical Daydream t-shirt.
Thanks. It's my favorite podcast.
Mine too. But where can I get a t-shirt?
It's easy. The link is in the show notes.
That is easy. I'm gonna go get one right now.
That's a great idea.
Thanks. Bye.
You bet. Stay cool.
And I get into a cab, and the cab driver's just asking me all these questions like, you ever been to India before? I was like, no, that first time, and where are you staying? I was like, I don't know. I'm going to figure it out. I kind of know the neighborhood I want to get to. And he was like, all right, how much money do you have? I was like, not much.
Hello, my Atypical Daydreamers. Welcome to the podcast. Here, we share road stories. I think everybody's got at least one, and I want to hear them all. My guest today is Jonny Fritz. He's a man of many talents, but best known as a songwriter. He plays both types of music, that is country and Western, but with a heavy dose of some sweet magic that makes his songs something special. You know, when I was 19, I bought a Tascam cassette 4-track recorder. It was total liberation. Suddenly, music was wide open. There were no rules. There was no pressure. Then over time came real studios and better gear, bigger projects. But I've always been trying to find my way back to that simple 4-track recorder. In today's episode, Jonny takes us back to those same beginnings where we take risks, we follow the whisper that says, come over here, and hold on to the magic that makes it all matter.
When I first got started touring, I was like 19, I think. I moved to Philadelphia from Virginia. And I just really wanted to see the world, and I was just really excited about writing stories, just telling stories and writing music, and loved that there was this. I fell in with these punks that just had this, like, everybody had their book. They would be like, this is my book of contacts. And you'd meet up with somebody like, do you know anybody in Kansas City? And you'd trade the contacts. You'd be like, do you know anybody in, I met these guys in San Antonio, and they have this warehouse, and here you got to call them. And because you had the book, you could share the contacts, and you put together a whole incredible tour just from that book, just from calling, hey man, I'm friends with, Josh Taylor in Denver at Monkey Mania. Like, oh yeah, of course, Josh. Well, you guys can, it was just so easy and so beautifully organic and natural of a thing to put together these types of tours. And so the whole thing, your whole world was an adventure. And then I wanted to grow it. I wanted it to be bigger. I wanted it to be more popular, and also it was all like noise and punk stuff, and I was just doing country stuff. It wasn't the same. It didn't make sense. So I really did want to find more people that really wanted to hear the stuff that I wanted to play. And so the more that I tried to grow it, it worked, and I got more popular, but everything suffered. Everything else suffered. Like the shows were better, and there were more people, and there was a little bit more money, and that was cool. But the adventure stuff just, it's like, it's an exact X pattern. It's like, oh, if you're going to do it, if it's going to be more interesting for money and finances and popularity, it's like the tour will, you're not going to have a good time. And so that's been kind of a heartbreaker, but really trying to get back to that. Just like, wait a second, I actually love the travel and meeting people and the experiences that you get to have because of this beautiful thing that we're doing. But in Philadelphia in like 2003, everybody was just doing medical experiments, and that's all the money. That's like the whole punk economy in Philadelphia and New Jersey was like GlaxoSmithKline and all these pharmaceutical companies that pay all these young, healthy white male studies. So if you were like 21, healthy white male, you could just get paid. And the first one that I did was as an inpatient study, meaning you stay in the medical facility. And it was like 18 days. And so for 18 days, I took some sort of, I don't even know, some blood thinner or something, but But at the end of it, I think I got $2,800. I never considered that much money ever before. I was like, fuck, man, I'm rich. And I had met somebody in Los Angeles on tour who had her Rolodex. She was like, have you ever been to Australia? I was like, no, I've always wanted to go. And she said, well, I've got people in Australia who would love your music, and I'll bring you down there. And so I really wanted to go. And they said, if you can get there, we can book you this tour. I was like, I can get there. So I did this medical study. I got this $2,800 and then was looking at around the world tickets that, you could spend like $1,000 and get 7 destinations, and you had 12 months to use them. But you had to kind of book them all at once, even though you could change them. Anyway, so I was like, I don't really know where to go, except I love Indian food and I know I want to go to Australia. And I was like fresh out of Virginia. I really had never been anywhere. So I was like, well, I'll go to Australia for 2 months. I'll go to India for 2 months, and I'll go to Cambodia and Thailand and Europe, I guess. And I had this $2,800 and spent I think it was $1,300 for the around the world ticket. And so I was set, and I did a couple months in Australia and hitchhiking up and down the coast of Australia. And this is exactly what it is. Like, okay, the first tour that I was in Australia, I met all these people that are still some of my best friends. And 20-something years ago, and my friend Dave, he had just finished got his boating license, and he's like, my uncle won't let me borrow his boat, but I know where he keeps the keys, and I'm licensed, so screw it. Like, I just need to swim out there and find the keys. And it was an amazing night. It was in Sydney because the phosphorescents were really active that time, but it was a freaky time in Sydney because a couple days before that, a person was climbing out of a boat in the Sydney harbor, and then another person was jumping into the water, and the shark was like going after one of them, and the person who jumped practically jumped into the mouth of a shark and was killed. Everybody was a little on alert, which is, they're like, okay, no, maybe stay out of the waters, especially because of the phosphorescence. Like, if you're in the water, there's like a laser beam on you. It's like, oh, there's one, And so, but we were determined we're going to steal this boat, borrow this boat. So in the middle of the night, we'd swim like a pretty good distance. Like I remember being pretty winded. We're just like naked in the Sydney harbor, just like, shit, I really hope there's no sharks here. This is going to be a dumb headline. Like, idiots, get eaten after massive warning, told them just not to do the one thing they did, and they got eaten. We're on the boat for a long time, and he cannot find the keys. Maybe an hour of just like searching and kind of naked and shivering, And I was like, I'm not swimming back. I had just enough to get out to this boat. I'm not swimming back. And as I was just like, well, I'll sleep here, and when the sun comes up and gets warmer, I'll be fine. And he finds the keys. So we fire this thing up, go back and pick up our friends on the dock, and we go out into the middle of what felt like the middle of the ocean. Kind of dock near this island off the coast of Sydney. We just swam and had the most amazing night. Slept on the boat, and then the next morning hiked to the top of the mountain of this little island, and there's like this concave cave at the top of the little mountain that has all these Aboriginal paintings on the inside of it. I mean, it was like, what is this? Is this like, what the hell is this? And we were really hungry. We hadn't brought any food or anything, and we just hiked up all the way. And as we were like kind of taking the boat back, we saw that there was a commercial shoot. It was like a Nike commercial shoot on the shore, but like on the bluff, like across from where the island was, like pretty severe cliff. And we're like, there's like a catering tent. It was like very obviously there's a catering tent up there. So we like dock the boat and like scale the wall and get up under the catering tent and just like taking muffins and like bananas and throwing them down. Oh my God. It was just one of the best nights I've lived. It really, I've said this many times, like nothing really tops that. It was, so whatever, we get back to the boat, we swim a little bit more, return the thing, hide the keys, swim back to shore. No harm, no foul. We got away with it. It was just an amazing night.
Hey, it's Josh. Hope you're enjoying the podcast. And if so, are you wanting more road stories? Well, good news. I've got you covered. Consider becoming a patron. You'll have access to loads of great bonus stories that there just wasn't time for. And you'll be supporting a truly independent podcast. Find the link in the show notes, and thanks. Now back to the show.
A couple of weeks later, I flew to Thailand and then went to Cambodia. And I was just by myself. It's like, all right, well, let's see what the world's like. And got to India and kind of like, man, I wish I'd done it. I really wanted to go into it being like, I don't know anything. I don't want to know anything. I just want to go into it. I was like this lust for life. I was like, just give it to me, you know? Don't tell me about it. Just give it to me. So I got to Delhi and it just got into a cab, and it was really early in the morning, like 5 o'clock in the morning. And I get into a cab, and the cab driver's just asking me all these questions, like, you ever been to India before? I was like, no, that first time, you know. He's like, all right. And where are you staying? I was like, I don't know. I'm going to figure it out. I kind of know the neighborhood I want to get to. And he was like, all right. How much money do you have? I was like, not much, you know. He's like, in India, what happens, I learned this the first hour I was there, is that the drivers, there's no money there, you know, nobody gets paid anything unless they get a commission from bringing you into somebody else's shop. You know, all these shop owners, like, if you bring somebody in, I will give you 50%, like a tremendous amount of money, like 50% of whatever they buy. The cab drivers often say is, you don't have to buy anything. Just go in there, let them make you some tea. 10 minutes later, we leave. And oftentimes you're like, yeah, I'll do it because I know you'll get paid. I know you'll get something. And so I'll just do it. But I didn't know that. I was just a little too polite. I was like, okay. And we went into this travel agency, and it was dark, and it was 5 o'clock in the morning. And like the guy's just like banging on the door, like, hello, come on, wake up, wake up. And all these people are like sleeping on the benches and sleeping on the floors. They're living in there. I was like, oh my God, no. I don't want to do this. I just go back to sleep. I'm just going to go down. No, I'm good. And they were like, hello, like, what country? Where you want to go? I was like, nowhere. I'm here. I don't have any money. I just want to stay in Delhi. Actually, I don't think I'm going to travel much at all. And they're like, yes, you are. You're going to take an express train to Varanasi. You're going to see Taj Mahal. And I was like, no, I'm good, you know. And it was probably the most intense moment of my life at that point was they got really, really aggressive, and they took my passport and said, you're going to Varanasi on the express train at noon, you know. And I was like, I just got off a fucking plane. I'm not doing that. And they said, well, we're going to take you to the ATM and you can just take the money out. And I was like, yeah, you bring me to an ATM. I'll show you how much money I'm going to take out, you know. And I go to the ATM and I just kept fucking with the numbers, just like, well, it'll just eat my card. And this big dude was with me. And I was like, it'll just eat my card and that'll be fine. You know, I've got like $300 cash. So to my name, I just kept doing that. And in India, they're just like, you can have 1,000 attempts at your pin. And there's like, no, you're still trying, you know, like there's no need to eat the card. Like you're doing good. You'll remember, just keep going. And I'm like, pretty sure it's fucking. And the guy just like bumped me out of the way and was like, what's the number? Yeah, it's this number. He was like, doot, 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 doot. Took out $250 and he took it. I was like, fuck. And then we went back to the travel agency place. And at that point, there were, I'm not exaggerating, I think there were 35 people there. 35 people who had been contracted because of me to render a service. One was wearing a suit and he had a car. Another guy had a bicycle. There were chaiwalas who had like, you know, chai tea, and then like samosa cart guys, the travel agents, all his family, all their kids, all their grandparents. They were all there, and they're like, hello, you know, like, you motherfucker, it's your turn to pay all of us. I was like, yes, good morning, hello, hi, yes, okay, y'all, I'll have one of those, okay, yeah. And man, they took me for a ride. You know, and so the moment I got to Delhi, I'd never been there before. You know, they're like, here's your car and here's your driver, and you're going to go to Agra, Agra, where the Taj Mahal is, and you got a ticket to the Taj Mahal. Then the next day, an express train to Varanasi and all this stuff. I was like, fuck, I was like, well, that does sound like a lot of stuff, After being there for a couple of weeks, I was like, that was about $11 worth of shit. Like I spent $250 on it. So I did it. I learned right away. Man, it made me not trust people. It made me, I don't know. It hardened me in a way that I wish it hadn't, because I was just I wasn't so naive, but I was just like really open-hearted. I was just like, come on in, you're not going to hurt me. And even if you do, I'd rather you hurt me than I look at you with like a side eye. I'd rather you just come in and fuck me up which is a very naive thing and way to go about the world, but it always had been up until that point. When you first start out, or if you do the DIY thing, is that you just have like exceptional experiences that are just unrivaled and are just unlike any other way. And then when you try to expand upon that and say, I want to build this, or I want it to be a livelihood, or I want more of it, all that other stuff just kind of goes away. And it can be pretty heartbreaking. And I feel like in the last, 15 years, I've just been so tickled. And I'm like, wow, man, I've gotten popular. This is amazing. I can't believe this. People pay to see me play music. It's fucking amazing. But the more that happens, the farther away you get from the interesting stuff. And I really don't want to lose that, because it's the only thing that really matters.
I want to thank Jonny for sharing his experience. And the good news is he's got a brand new album coming out on October 24th on Garhole Records. It's called Debbie Downers, and I love the first single. You can pre-order the album now. The link is in the show notes. Also, if you like Jonny's stories, be sure to check out next week's bonus stories at my Patreon. Jonny talks about trying to record an album in India and what happens when you drink water from the Ganges River. Yum, yum. This podcast is created and produced by me, Josh Caldwell. Music by Visual Aid, my side music project. General support and copywriting by Miranda Caldwell. Thank you for listening, and I hope you come back next time.